Hello everybody out there, welcome to my channel. I hope you guys are all doing well. I'm getting over a little bit of a cold, so if I sound a little rough, you'll know why. So I've been painting some jellyfish, as you can see, trying different techniques and different styles. And been having a lot of fun doing that. So I thought today I'd try and paint you guys another jellyfish. As you can see, those two look similar. I really like the colors of those two jellyfish. And that one too. That one's similar colors, but just a little bit different details. And then that one I really liked. It's a different color scheme, and I like that color scheme a lot, but I thought today I'd make the painting in that style, kind of with those kind of details, but with darker colors like the other ones that I showed you. So we're going to attempt to do that, and I got a 5x7 piece of cold pressed watercolor paper, and the colors I'm using are Aqua Rose, Hansa Yellow Light, Aqua Green, and Indigo. And then I will also be using my Kuretake White Gold. And I'm decided to use that just for kind of a little bit of a shimmer effect. And I'll be using that brush right there is my number 12 round mostly for the painting. And then I do also use that one, my rigger brush. And then I use my flat brush to add the water, because I will be using about 3 or 4 different techniques, watercolor techniques for this painting. I also use, and that little dropper right there is some alcohol, rubbing alcohol for those round circles, and I'm also using some salt. And I'm also going to be using, which I did not show there in the beginning, is some drawing gum or masking fluid. There's different. So what I'm going to be doing, I'm going to be doing a light wash first of all, and which will kind of give that illusion of iridescent, kind of how jellyfish are see-through, kind of give it that illusion, because I'm going to be doing a light wash first and then using negative painting, using that to paint around the body of the jellyfish. So here I am with my wet on wet, and I'm doing a super light wash in the very beginning of some of the pink and yellow, because I'm trying to give the illusion of a kind of the jellyfish glowing, and that's why I'm using a really light wash, because I'm going to be painting around that wash with darker colors, and I really want that that illusion of a light colored jellyfish. So my first wash that I'm using here is going to be very light, so just make a really light mixture of I used the aqua, the Aqua Rose, and the yellow there, and just kind of swirled it around, and with the wet on wet, and then I'm adding some salt. And then I almost forgot to add my white gold shimmer. I should have done that before the salt, but oh no, I forgot that. So there, I'm just kind of splattering some of that on there. I don't know if it picks up very well on the camera, but it does give it a nice shimmer. So then I let it dry, and that's what it looks like. So that's going to be my first layer on this painting. I'm doing several layers. You'll see the layers help give that a nice contrast to the painting. So anyway, so there I'm actually using a pencil, which you don't see me doing that very much. So I thought I better draw this in so I don't make it look too wobbly or wonky. So I took my pencil and very lightly just drew in where I want my jellyfish head to be. So then I'm taking a light wash of the pink, because I'm kind of, you know how jellyfish have the inner and outer layer. So this is the inner layer of the top of their, I guess, I don't know if they call it a head. I'm guessing they call that the top of the jellyfish there. And it's a very light wash of pink, and you can see I'm kind of drying it off because I don't want it to be too dark or heavy. So then I'm taking my brush and just lightly dabbing it with some of the pink, and I add a little bit of that aqua, the aqua green. And the key to this is just, just keep it light. You want to keep it a light wash because we're going to be negative painting around that, and you want the jellyfish to have that glowing light effect. So I'm just bringing my paint down, kind of, trying to give the painting movement because, jellyfish seem to float in the water, so I'm trying to give the painting a feeling of movement. And there I'm taking a mixture of the pink and the aqua green, kind of creates an interesting kind of a light purpley color. So I decided to add more salt to the inside there, just kind of to give it a little bit more of an effect. So I added another layer of salt to the inside of that head there, and then I let that dry, and I'm adding some masking fluid. And I took a old paintbrush that I have and I sharpened it to a point, and I'm just using that to add masking fluid because I want to retain some of those light areas there for the tentacles, because I'm going to be adding darker paint over on top of that. So I want some of that to be light. So I'm using my masking fluid for that. You could use a gel pen or like go over it with white gouache or some other paint, but I wanted to kind of, I just didn't want to do that. So I thought I'd use my masking fluid. So I let the masking fluid dry. Of course, you got to let the masking fluid dry. Really make sure it's dry before you go back over it with more paint. So here I took a mixture of my aqua green and yellow. I'm going over that because this is basically kind of the negative painting is what I was talking about. So I'm just kind of going over that with layers of paint. So that layer there that I'm adding is a darker, more thicker aqua green. And I'm also adding yellow here and there with my wet brush, and I'm just blending the paint. And then I decided to start adding the indigo. The indigo is the darkest color that I'm using in this painting. So that's going to be on the top there is the indigo. So I'm just kind of adding it in movement, moving my brush, trying to create movement like the jellyfish is swimming through the water. And I'm adding some pink to that, kind of just working in layers. Adding some more shadow but trying to keep it soft and light, the parts that are inside the jellyfish. And I'm adding more dark. I'm trying to really make a contrast between the jellyfish and the water. When you do this, like I said, you just want to make sure before you add your layers of paint that your masking fluid is dry, because if it's not, then it could cause problems when you try to remove it later. And I also added some yellow here and there. I really like the way these colors mix together well. The colors it adds are pretty. So then I'm adding my rubbing alcohol. A couple drops of rubbing alcohol there to create those cool round effects. Kind of like bubbles in the water. And then I threw in a little, I thought, I might as well throw in a little salt. So I did a little salt too. Then, while that was drying, I thought I'd add, just start kind of working on the tentacles area there, and the part of the body inside, the jellyfish. Trying to add a little bit of shadows, and I'm just taking basically a mixture of my colors, and just adding kind of strokes here and there. My rigger brush, trying to keep it light and soft. And I wanted to add a little bit more, a little bit of detail to that upper part there, the upper part of the head. Kind of little squiggly lines. Just really light wash of my paint. I really like the way that the pink and the aqua green makes a really kind of light lavender purple. And I'm adding a little bit more water. I had some water on the brush and just kind of softening stuff up the upper part of the head there. Because you can see the indigo there is still wet up there by the head and on the sides. But so I just wanted to be careful not to try to get too much of that smeared into the head there. So I was just being careful with my little rigger brush. But then now I'm adding more, as you can see, more and more layers of color. I'm trying to darken the background there. Still adding more paint. That's the indigo, a thicker mixture of it. But I wanted to keep those round blobs in there, so I was just kind of painting around those round blobs from the rubbing alcohol that the rubbing alcohol made. Okay, and then it was dry, and I decided to add a wash of yellow. I wanted to make it a little bit more yellow, so I just mixed a real thin wash of the yellow and dabbed it and spread it over the indigo blue. Then I decided to go darker again. So I'm adding another layer of indigo blue. Okay, now it's dry, and I took off the masking fluid. You know, I think I accidentally deleted the part where I took the masking fluid off with that little eraser there you can see in the corner. So the masking fluid's off now, and I'm adding a little bit of color to the areas that the masking fluid was covering. So to me, it was a little bit of a stark contrast, where the masking fluid was, but I like the way it looked, but I thought I would add a little bit of color there so it's not so like white. So I added a mixture of the what I was using before, kind of a light mixture of the opera rose and the aqua green and the yellow. You know, it's all on my palette there, so I just wanted to keep it light though. It's a light wash of all those colors, so I'm just adding more contrast and shadows. Wet on dry, and then some parts of it are wet and dabbing, so some parts I am wet on wet. So I'm using a lot of different actually watercolor techniques for this painting, which is fun, you know, using all the different techniques. Wet on wet, wet on dry, masking fluid, washes, layers of paint, negative painting, salt. So there's a lot used this painting. And you know, if you you could do this painting, make it your own. You don't have to make it such a dark color contrast like I did. You know, like my other one I showed in the beginning was more of a bright blue, which I really like that one too. Anyway, okay, so it's dry, and I thought, okay, now it's time to do the details, which to me are the most fun to do. So I just used a black. Let's see, a black pen there and some white pens, gel pen, a Posca pen, and this is just a black waterproof pen, and I'm adding a little bit of details with the black first, kind of swirly marks and stuff like that. I mean, you could add any type of details you like, but I kind of like the swirly look for this one. Then I took my white gel pen and I'm adding some details to that. I decided to go back. I'm using my white gel pen to go back over where I had some of the black pen marks. I was having a little bit of trouble with that gel pen. I've noticed sometimes when you use salt on your paintings and you go back over it with a Posca pen or gel pen, it doesn't want to come out as smoothly. But anyways, I thought, okay, it's time for dots. So I'm just doing random dots. I'm kind of following the white lines that I made with random sized dots. So if there's any, the pictures that I showed in the beginning of this video, if there's any other style of jellyfish you'd like me to do, the other ones that I did, or I have done, which I might say for another video, I've done a fish and a starfish in this style of painting, which turned out cute. I might do those as a tutorial also. But if anybody has any suggestions or anything they'd want, just drop it below in the comments. Here I'm adding more dots. And I also have an Etsy shop, which sometimes on my Etsy shop I do sell either the originals or the prints that I've, some of the paintings that I've made on here. And if anybody would, has any questions or really likes one of these and would be interested in a print or an original, just message me or leave a comment. So I'm just adding dots to give it a kind of a whimsical look, trying to make it look like it's kind of gives it like a little bit more of a glowing effect too. I'm just doing different size circles. So then I thought, okay, I got to put some sprinkles, splatter. So I took that white gold shimmer watercolor and I added a touch of pink to it just to give it a little bit of a pinkish tone. And it's time to take off the tape. That's always the fun part, right? It's always amazing how when you take the tape off of painting that white border, how much it just kind of pops the painting out. Okay, there it is. I think I really liked how it turned out. Thank you so much for watching. Please like and subscribe, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.